everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cutting Room Floor here at Grace Church. I'm Larry. I'm joined by Taylor Brown.
Yeah, hey.
We're still talking about greatest hits.
Greatest hits.
And so we're talking about the parables of Jesus.
Yeah.
And to kind of get us into this parable of the workers in the vineyard, you talked about the greatest hits of kids. And the greatest hit
Yes.
maybe being... That's not fair.
That's not fair. That's not fair. This is a newer phase for us. I would say probably 6 months ago. Like Gemma would say it a little bit, but 6 months ago it really hit full tilt. Like I mean, it was constantly that's not fair. I don't know. I'm sure you've experienced that with your girls being older.
When I read your draft, I felt affirmed and seen, and we have a 10-year-old, an almost 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old. This isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it sticks around for. That's what I figured.
Yeah, I told him at Central. Easter weekend, I got to take Marky to see Les Mis, the Broadway production.
Yes.
She's artsy. She loves that.
Yes.
Selah could care less about Broadway.
Sure.
But as we're leaving, it did not go unnoticed that Marky was getting an expensive gift.
Oh, yeah.
As we're leaving, Selah goes, "You better plan something for me, and it better be expensive."
Oh.
That was her version of that's not fair.
Absolutely. Except trying to use it in a way of getting something. Yeah.
I don't want to go to Les Mis, but I'm keeping tabs here, Pop. Like...
Salah's gonna go and look up the ticket value, figure out how much.
Yeah, it's that's not fair. It's been a good refrain in our house.
Yeah, no, we get it a lot, especially with a 3-year-old brother that's younger than her, who every kid's different, and so there are things that Tatum gets that she doesn't. I mean, it's just we're in that big time. This is I'm going to talk about this in a future sermon. I'm sure. We also hit the phase of she wrote a sign for the door last night that says like nobody in my room. Tatum disagrees. It's the best. I took a picture of it. It'll be in a sermon soon, I'm sure. But we were cracking up at it. We've also hit that phase of like not just it's not fair, but now signs on the door saying get out.
The best for us is the older two share a room right now, and when they get mad at each other, they have to they're in bunk beds, but they'll put blanket curtains up and put a sign on that, like Marky keep out, because they're in the same room. But yes, the sign thing is real.
It's a human version of do not disturb.
These are some greatest hits of our kids for sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you use that to lead us into the parable of the vineyard workers, and this idea of fairness and how fairness in God's economy. Because I think the danger with this parable would be to take it as some kind of economic or political treatise.
Correct.
We're not talking about that.
No.
Don't run your business this way.
No. Exactly. Yeah, it's not bad economics. Right.
Yeah, right. This is not what we were taught in economics class, but we're talking about kingdom values.
Yeah.
So how does this parable reveal a countercultural kingdom definition of grace and fairness?
Yeah. So fairness, it's really the idea of like you get what you deserve. Like that's what's fair. And so for example, in the context of working, so if I work hard. And if I work a lot, then I should get a lot. I should be rewarded for that. And those who don't work little, well, should not get as much, shouldn't get a lot. They should be further back in the line or however you want to put it. Like that's kind of like the world's idea of fairness. I mean, it's really, when you think about it, it's kind of what the American dream's built on.
Yeah. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps.
Yeah.
If you work hard, you can go anywhere.
Yes. I mean, it is the idea that you have, it's the land of opportunity, but yet if you work hard enough in this opportunity, you will get X, Y, Z. And while, hear me, once again, we're not going to blend business and economics and all that. This is an economics lesson. And while that's an admirable dream, it's incredible, we have to understand that as citizens of the U.S., we're actually found our home in heaven. We're followers of Jesus. And so there's a different kingdom with which we operate under the authority of. And that's the kingdom of God. And so what this parable does is it flips the idea of fairness on its head and talks about a generous grace that isn't fully fair by human standard, by fairness as we know it. And it can mess with us a little bit. It messes with us because there are people who haven't done as much in our mind as us, or aren't as good as us, or less deserving as us, that get extended the same grace and love from God. It messes with us a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like in our economy of fairness in our world, this idea it kind of rattles the brain a little bit.
Yeah, I remember even as a new follower of Jesus. One of my favorite bands in high school was Reliant K.
Yes.
A blessed memory.
Yes. Were they sunny with a high of
Yeah.
75? Right. Yeah.
They had a
Okay.
line in one of their songs that the beauty of grace is that it makes life not fair. And even then, I wrestle with it. I'm like,
Yeah.
but I want life to be fair.
Absolutely. Yep.
The beauty of grace is that it makes life not fair.
That's a good line,
And,
yeah.
and you pointed out some things that we're not talking about with this issue
Yeah.
of fairness.
Oh my
We're
gosh,
not
yeah.
talking about we're not about the big issues of
Yes.
justice in our world.
Yes.
We should absolutely say something about the fairness of
Yes.
those
Yes.
situations, the justice.
Yes, and this is actually to take y'all behind the curtain, because this is one thing we get to do here. I think that people appreciate us talking about behind the curtain and some of the writing stuff
Yeah.
with it. So this was actually a section that the Beauty of Teaching team, where as I'm writing the sermon on Sunday night, I went, okay, right here I need to talk about how to word this. And so I left a little spot, and then when we met on the next day for Monday, I said, okay, team, I said, I know what I need to say here. I need to emphasize that we're not talking about, and I tried to word all these things, and I was word vomiting for a minute about this. And I said, can you all help me give verbs and words to this? And so I think it was Pastor Sherry who gave this, and that's what I landed on of the fairness that we're talking about in this sermon is a locus turned inward. It is all about me. It's I deserve more. I should get that. I want better. It's more of a selfish kind of locus inward of life. What we're not talking about here is when our locus is turned outward, and we're talking about fairness for other people, especially marginalized or those that are whether that's abuse or whatever the case may be.
I wrote down one of the global injustices you talked about was human trafficking.
Yeah, I use that in the sermon. Yeah,
It's a very real example.
Yes.
But it's intentionally one that makes you go, oh yeah, that's not fair.
That's not fair. Yeah,
and we should do something.
Absolutely, and we should be vocal about it.
It's not me going, Taylor got the new iPhone, and
Right.
I didn't. That's not fair. What a schmuck.
Exactly.
That's different.
That's the difference. And so Pastor Sherry actually helped give verbiage to that, which I was so grateful for her for, because it helped me kind of. A lot of times teaching, the gift of it is I have all the thoughts up here.
Right.
I just need, and we do this for each other all the time. But we have all the thoughts up here, but I need words to get it into on the paper and have it make sense, and they help with that. And that's what a big distinction with the sermon, because I hate for someone to hear this and to think, oh well, to the response of abuse or human trafficking or whatever the case may be, poverty, whatever the injustice is, to just go, well.
That's not fair.
Grace
That's
isn't
okay.
fair, and that's okay, and we should keep moving on.
No, it's not okay.
No. Jesus talked a lot about justice too. And he talked about making wrong things right. And so what we weren't talking about here was those kind of big injustices, those big wrongs that need to be made right. What we're talking about is a selfish inward of how you want something better. It's me, and that's not fair. I didn't get it. That was an important distinction I wanted to make before we got too deep in the sermon. I think it mattered to frame the context of it.
I 100% agree. And I was preaching down at Central, and I named specifically unhoused persons. I'm sitting in a room with a bunch of unhoused persons. There is a lack of fairness to that.
Yes.
When I go, oh man, my property tax bill was way higher than I thought it was going to be.
100%.
And I've got people sitting in the room who would give anything to have a roof over their head.
Yeah.
That's issues of justice that we need to care about.
Absolutely.
So that was a great distinction. So just to summarize the parable, you have a vineyard owner who goes out early in the morning,
calls sunrise.
Calls a group of people to come and work in his vineyard, and I'm going to pay you a day's wage.
Yep.
Cool, story's great to that point.
Yep.
But then he goes out and does the same thing again and again and again, all the way till 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Which is quitting time.
It's essentially an hour before is the idea behind it. Right at the edge.
So right now for us.
Seriously, right now, if I came and started my day right now.
Yeah. So almost at quitting time, they work just an hour.
Yep.
And other folks have been there all day long in the heat of the day, and calls them to be paid in reverse order.
Yeah.
And the folks who were there the least end up getting paid the same as the folks who have been there all day.
Yeah.
And that's immediately when we look at this parable, all the front loading we did on defining fairness and injustice, because we immediately go, well, yeah, that's wrong.
Yep.
But so it gets us into the idea, and we could get into it, of the vineyard owner thing. Are you envious because I'm generous? Yep. It flips it. So as we get into this kingdom idea, what about this parable challenges you the most personally?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, one thing is the envy piece. And so in the parable, if you notice, So the whole thing's set up where the landowner, like you said, he brings all the people in all different times, and then when Jesus is telling the story, I love how he puts the ones who just got there first. So then the ones who toiled all day and worked the hardest are in the back, and then there's a thing that I didn't get to get into. I didn't get to camp on it. I mentioned it, but I didn't get to like sit here. So I'm gonna sit here for a few minutes. So notice the reaction in the story of those who were in the back of the line, in which case it's the ones who arrived at sunrise and worked the hardest and longest. So when the 5 p.m. workers are handed a day's wage, their immediate reaction, once again, talking about where the locus is, where our focus is, it was inward because it says that they thought they would get above a day's wage.
Even though they were clearly told.
Even though they were clearly told it's a day's wage, they immediately turned inward again here and said, well, if he got that, maybe I'll get more.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see this, once again, this focus turn inward. And then I kind of built it up at the Cape, and I said, imagine being that worker who you see the 5 p.m. people get theirs, and then the 3 p.m. people get theirs, and the noon get theirs, and the 9 a.m. get theirs, and here you are in line, and he hands you a day's wage. And immediately it was envy. Yeah, I mean they just immediately talked about how unfair it is of how they worked the least, and they were the sunrise workers are the ones who toiled in the sun, the burden of the heat and the toil of the day. They were the ones who only got the same amount as those who worked only an hour. It was essentially their way of saying that's not fair. And for me, that's the piece of the parable I relate to. Where if you say it challenges me because I see myself in there. There's often times where I'll look around and I'll go, I'm working so hard here. Where's my fill in the blank?
Yeah.
Where's my little throw me a bone here?
Yeah.
Where's my rest? Where's my break? Where's my thing? I mean, there's times in other instances with family where I go, well, wait a minute. I did this and didn't get anything, and they did that and they got something. Why is that? I mean, I'm constantly banging the drum of that's not fair.
Yeah.
I did the story about my tickets to the Masters.
That was so good.
Just it was just ridiculous, but there was a truth to it, of like I was legit envious of my friend. And so for me, the envy meter and the envy button gets pushed all the time.
While still acknowledging, to go back to your story, that your friend deserved that.
Totally did. He totally did.
So it wasn't
he was
about
more
him.
deserving than I was of these tickets.
It wasn't about him. It was just like, where's mine?
Exactly.
The example I use, it happened actually last week.
Exactly.
My brother-in-law in St. Louis, he's a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan.
How do you? Oh wow, that's
I
a
married my
tension.
sister.
That's a tension right there.
But he texted me on Tuesday night last week, and he goes, "Hey, I have an extra ticket for an all-inclusive suite at Busch Stadium tomorrow. You want to come?" It was his way of rubbing my nose in the fact that I'm 1,300 miles away from my team, the Chicago Cubs, who are in first place.
First place.
And I legitimately found myself checking ticket prices.
Of course.
Like on less than 12 hours notice, I'm going to skip work, go to St. Louis, just because.
Until Brady and I am out of here.
Yeah, I'm going to get mine.
Yes,
I
yeah.
deserve to go to a suite too.
Absolutely.
He's a great dad. He works a full-time job. He puts up with my sister. It wasn't about him not deserving it. I deserved it too.
Yes, yeah. And it's funny. And what's funny
And
is
I'm not a Cardinals fan.
no, you weren't even a Cardinals fan. But and you would be like, why am I here? But immediately, it happened with you too. And the same thing. That's what's so interesting about this parable that I didn't get to camp on. Of like, they immediately turn inward.
Yeah,
Immediately. It's not even like the immediate reaction isn't even about. That's what he got.
Yeah.
It was actually about, well, maybe I'll get more.
Yeah.
That I deserve it. That was what in their mind. That's what would be fair. If you're going to give him a day's wage, then what's fair, what's right, is to get what I earned and give me more than that. That's one of the things that challenges me big time.
So to help us as a personal checkpoint with that, you brought Proverbs 14:30 into it. Envy rots the bones. How's that a personal checkpoint?
Oh my gosh.
In our day-to-day with this.
Yeah, I think I had this little quip, if you will, of like envy just leaves us feeling rotten. And for me when I find myself so consumed with something that I'm envious about, that I get that rotten feeling, for me, I know that it's at that point that I need to really do some work to get out of that. Like, because I love that proverb. It truly rots. It truly erodes the bones. There's checkpoints for me as far as like, I'll ask, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
Why am I feeling envious? What is that? Is it even an unrelated thing? Like maybe I'm just exhausted, or I have stress, or something
100%.
else, or I'm unsettled in my soul, and envy's the way that is expressed and comes out. For me, it's when I have that rotten feeling beyond just like a quick, like sometimes you can catch it, Like sometimes, for example, what I didn't do with the Masters tickets, I wish I would have done was like realize like on Thursday, like, oh man, like yeah, I do have a little bit of envy that he got to go, but I'm going to choose to celebrate him instead.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to celebrate this awesome gift that he got, or however he got. I'm going to celebrate that he got this. Sometimes you can catch it, and other times it's just when you're just feeling rotten, you're like, oh man, like I've fallen for the trap.
Now, I haven't gotten there with my brother-in-law to say, hey, good for you, because he's a
Cardinals fan. Yeah.
But it did become a checkpoint in what's this about? I was just tired.
Yes.
And I would have loved to go just like check out and watch the ball. So that's how it became the checkpoint. Like, what's really going on with me? I don't really want to fly to St. Louis, watch a Cardinals game.
No.
Ugh. Like, why do I want to do all that?
Yeah.
No, I just need a break.
Yes.
Is what it was. So that's how that, like, the rotten feeling becomes a personal checkpoint.
And and the other thing I didn't get to in the sermon, I'll say it now, that I really wanted to camp on. So when I was talking about fairness and kind of the idea of like, so where does that's not fair come from? Like where, that rises up in us, where does it come from? I talked a lot about it comes from envy of what someone else, it comes from envy of what you don't have.
Yeah.
Right? Something you want that you want to get from someone else. I think another spot that the it's not fair comes from isn't just envy about what you don't have. It's also insecurity about what you do have.
Ooh. All right, say more.
Okay, so once again, this would have added like 5 minutes to the sermon.
Yeah,
I'm like, I didn't have 5 minutes.
Folks, this is the cutting room floor.
so I was thinking about this. I'm like, back to the reason of like, why, what's going on in the service? I think of when I say that's not fair. Yes, it's envious about what I don't have that someone else has. Like I want those Masters tickets. But I think that that's not fair also comes from this insecurity or discontent or unsure feeling about what's going on right now. It's when something's bubbling on the surface and I'm not settled, I'm not at peace, I'm not content, I'm not grateful, there's an insecurity there bubbling up. Whether it's like I'm nervous about something or I'm not satisfied and I'm coveting something else or whatever the case may be. I think it's from both because there are times where the envy, yes, I wish I had what they had, but even more than that, it's more so like it's not just I wish that I had what they had. It's like I'm dissatisfied with what I do have, and this has caused this feeling of in me. I wanted to include it in there, but once again, it would have been a whole. It would have been just like 5 or more minutes in the sermon to really unpack it and talk about it. But I think we have to be careful there too.
Yeah,
because even if we're like, horse blinders on, right? like I'm not going to covet. I'm not going to be envious of anything. I'm just going to keep my head down. There are some of us who have a that's not fair because we just feel like, man, I should have more in this area, or I should get better in this area, and I'm not satisfied with my house. I'm not satisfied with my thing. It's always looking for the next thing. It's always looking for more. I think that raises the little that's not fair. I deserve this in us.
Yeah, that's good. What I was thinking of when you were saying that, listeners would have no reason to know this. You and I actually live in the exact same house.
Exact same. Yeah.
So you're
let's preface. Two separate houses. 2
different addresses. Yeah. It's the same model.
People are like, how many kids in that house?
So it's the same model of house. So just a mirror image.
Just flipped, yeah.
So yours a year older than my one. But I've seen pictures of your house and seen that you have pavers in your driveway.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just got concrete. What's up with that? But the first time you came over to my house, you walk around the back and you're like, did they put plants around your air conditioning pad? I'm like, yeah. And you're like, what?
They didn't do that for me.
It works both ways. And I'm like, okay. Like,
yes.
And it comes from a dissatisfaction because you've looked at your air conditioning pad and gone, there should be some plants.
This is the ugliest thing just sitting here. Yep.
Why do I have just a plain concrete pad?
Yes.
When we had no control. It was not a design build. It was a build to spec.
None. And that's where I think it's important to note of it's both ends of this. It's not always because there's some people who are like, well, I don't know. I try to nose down. I'm grinding every day. I'm not focusing on that, which is true. But then there's also the piece of like, but yet they go home every day, and I can do this too. I'm a little more on the envy side, but I can do this too. Go home every day dissatisfied with some piece of their life. Yeah. And we're banging the table of I want better, I want more, I want new.
So take all of those practical examples when it comes to God's kingdom. What do we do with this? What's the takeaway in this?
Yeah. So I love how the parable ends of the landowner responding. In this case, that's representative of God. And he asked this question. And remember, this is in terms of money, and that's what Jesus used. Jesus used real world examples to talk about kingdom principles.
Right.
And so once again, this is not economics. This is, if we're into a who's who, the landowner's God, we're the workers, and really like money is grace.
Yeah.
Like if we want, that was like another
Sure.
let's build that equation. And so what God essentially says is it's not the landowner response. It's not about how much the worker worked. It's about how generous the landowner wants to be.
Yeah.
And so what he says is he's like, I'm entitled to this. It's my money. In this case, God's the one distributing the grace. He's the one giving it out. And so he's not being unfair. He's being generous. He defines that. He says, I'm not being unfair to you, friend. He goes, I want to give the guy who only worked an hour the same as I gave you. This isn't about being unfair to those who worked more. It's about, giving and being generous to those that maybe aren't as deserving. And so what I love is Jesus did this a lot with his parables, where it's not always like the nice and tidy bow wrapped on. They lived happily ever after the end. What Jesus would do a lot with his parables is leave it kind of open. And I love that this is the last piece of it, where it's really what do we do with this? It's an invitation for us to receive it.
Yeah.
And what he leaves it up to is he leaves it up to the worker who's grumbling. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the translation had grumbling.
Yeah.
What he does is he leaves it up to the worker who's grumbling of they can continue to grumble, or they can receive the wage, the grace that's been given to them. Those are the choices. Those are the choices. What doesn't change is the landowner's generosity.
Right.
Because he said, like, it's up to me. I'm gonna give it. That doesn't change. What can change is our response to it.
Yeah.
What doesn't change is that he got a day's wage in his hand.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of is he going to receive it.
So I've had this thought just on a very like churchy level. I have been envious of Brittany for years because she grew up in the church, and I had this like radical conversion into it. So I'm literally the 5 p.m. worker.
Yeah.
And she has had to remind me so many times, we've received the same grace. It's the same salvation. It's the same grace.
Yeah.
And how generous is the landowner in that? Like, I was late to this party.
Yep.
But I'm still in it.
Yeah.
And they're still envy. Like, she just knows everything.
Sure, yeah. Oh, no, I hear you.
Like cradle church attendant. But what this parable does for me, it reminds me that I know the landowner, and he is so generous.
Yeah.
And I might be the one that showed up at 5 p.m., but man, has he taken care of me.
And I used this in the sermon. I talked about how depending where you are on the line, you're either amazed at his generosity or you're alarmed at it.
It depends on the day.
And it depends on the day. It depends on the thing. Depends on the day. Yeah, it depends on a lot.
Yeah.
Where there are those of us who got late to the party, or man, like I joked, I am unloving. I'm angry. I'm codependent. I can go down the list, right? About a myriad of things in my life, and yet God just keeps giving me a day's wage.
Yeah.
He just keeps generously offering me grace. So I joked, like I relate to the 5 p.m. worker a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm amazed at his grace.
Yeah.
But if I view myself, and about certain situations I do, as I'm the when it comes to this thing in life, I've been pretty good at following the Lord.
Yeah.
Wanting
to justify themselves.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's this. I'm then kind of alarmed at what do you mean they get the same as me? I think the way Jesus lived this, a story where Jesus lived this out was that we talk about the thief on the cross. Yeah. Next to him.
Yeah, talk about 5 p.m.
Yeah, you talk about like he got in like 5:59.
Yeah,
5:30.
10 seconds to go.
Yeah, he got in 10 seconds to go. Where this is when Jesus is on the cross and there's a thief next to him who essentially says that he's Lord.
Yeah.
And Jesus tells him, today you'll be with me in paradise.
Yep.
And then they die. which is this wild, like
He didn't do a partnership class.
right. He
no
didn't do a
shape
partnership.
assessment.
He didn't raise his hand and
No.
say with every head bowed and
No
every eye
baptism.
closed. He didn't raise his hand. He didn't go to the altar.
Today you'll be with me in
Yeah,
paradise.
yeah. And once again, that'll mess with you. That
can.
messes. Even our real world. We like to think of we like to think of all these terrible criminals and people who are notorious. Where they've caused a lot of harm and whatever. And we like to play that game of like, well, are they in heaven? Because there's some stories about some of them who like on their deathbed said yes to Jesus. And hear me, like we say this a lot. Like we're in sales, not management. So I'm not going to make the call whether someone's in heaven or not.
Amen.
I'm not going to do that at all. But like, I need to be ready to not try to be the fairness judge. You go, well, they're not worthy of that. I'm like, I don't know. The landowner is generous, and who am I to say he can't bestow grace?
Yeah.
It's up to us to either resent it or receive it.
Present it or receive it. That's what it all comes down to. And we hope that's what you've taken away from this.
Yeah.
Whether you've been a part of the kingdom for a long, long time, still receive his grace, and the reward is yours. Yeah. But even when you're the 5 p.m. worker, the reward is still yours.
Yeah.
So we hope you're having a great week and are enjoying this series, and we'll be back next week with another greatest hit.
Yes.
Have a great week. See you soon.
Bye.